Get a drink and gather around. Let's talk drivers. Let's talk rigs. Let's talk skill. You've got the best of the best in the off-road racing world. Have a seat at the table with us, and let's talk about racing on the rocks.
What's up, dude?
Hey, man. What's
How you
happening?
doing?
Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been a little while.
Yeah.
For those who are just joining us, we were sitting in the studio for a while. I have Eric Hagan on the line. We were sitting in the studio for a few minutes, and I just tried for the first time putting in some intro music into this, and it was all right. But how you doing, man?
I'm good. When I sit here and look at our side-by-sides, why are you in a filter and you've got me like on like old man filter?
It's all lighting. Listen, the secret to pictures is lighting. I have this very nice shade drawn. I have a nice lamp over here.
Yeah.
I got the Mona Lisa going over here.
I thought I had turned all my lights on because I kind of get that. I'm not a photographer.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people think I'm Ricky B, but I'm not. I am not a photographer at all. Yeah. And but I do know that light to your face is what you want. And so when I see people taking pictures on the beach with the sun behind them setting, and I'm going, no, y'all, you can't do that.
No,
you can't do that.
Have you ever used one of those things that go on your phone that are like the light ring?
No, but this whole 2020 pandemic crap, everybody, when people show their home studios, those little rings, everyone's got them. Why am I the only? Like, apparently, I'm the only person that ain't got one. So
hey, if it makes you feel any better, I have a full size, like, let's see if I can get it in the shot here, a full blown lamp. Okay, so don't feel bad. But I went to my in-laws for, I think, the Mike Tyson fight a couple of weeks ago, and one of the girls there had one, and it's a phone case, and it was built into the phone where the light ring went around the camera on her iPhone.
What?
And I'll tell you, look, I am not someone who like takes selfies, really is concerned with how, I'm wearing, look at this. I got a nice RCV shirt on, and I got some old gray sweatpants on after that. So I'm minimal effort in terms of looks.
I got bicycle shirt.
That's
and I don't have any pants. I don't have any pants on, so I can't stand up.
Only from the waist up, baby.
Right. Ain't nobody say anything. We're Zoom calling.
That's it.
This is all I need. So
yeah. But anyways, I did use the light thingy. I took a picture with it, and it's pretty amazing what it does for you. I will say there's something to it for sure. You start looking nicer. Your skin looks smooth. Your eyes look like cartoon characters. It's great.
Well, that's why I'm saying, like, it has got rid of, like, I don't know if you have any blemishes, but like all your cheeks, your five head, all that stuff is just smooth.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. So where would you consider, like, if I'm washing my face, for those who can't see, I'm bald. Okay. Just completely bald. Got a little bit on the side.
You're bald?
Oh yeah. It's there.
I didn't notice. I didn't know.
Yeah, no idea, right? So when you think of me, you think of, I'm washing my face, getting the dirt off of it. How far up do you think that someone who's bald washes their face?
I don't know. I got something. Go ahead.
So I mean, to be honest, it's about right up here. Yeah. It's a one size fits all, really. I'm one of those guys. I'll use the shampoo, body wash, conditioner, everything in one. So it just goes right on back.
Yeah. I just wash my eye. I like my beard. I use shampoo.
Yeah.
For the beard. Yeah, and so when I lather with soap, I just go across my eyes and my ears, and then I don't even do my cheeks anymore because I've already done the soap. But
it's easy. It's all in one soap, man. I like it. Do you use beard oil?
No.
Have you ever?
No. I use motor oil. 20W50. I use the real thick stuff, like I guess I can't say Aunt Jemima, but like syrup.
Yeah. There you go. You can't say that anymore. Isn't that crazy?
So I won't say Aunt Jemima.
That's it. Perfect. No Aunt Jemima on the show.
Yeah.
But in college, I was convinced, some guy, had me and all my friends convinced that if you put beard oil in your beard, that it'll make it look thicker. It didn't. All it did was make it look like you hadn't washed your beard, and it made you just smell like a tree.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is you're pretty much just now you look greasier.
It's it. In fact, just my beard looks greasy.
Right.
It's not the look you want for sure. But hey, man, how you doing? This has been the craziest. I mean, last year was the craziest year.
Yep.
We're 5 days, or today's the 6th.
Yep.
We are 6 days in, and 2021 is not looking promising.
Yep. Yep. No, it's and the difference between 2020 and 21 is 2020 can now drink because it's 21.
That's it.
And but the other thing is we're going into this year knowing that life sucks. We didn't go into 2020, we were like New Year's resolutions, but now we know that this is going to suck. So
expectations are low.
Right. I mean, if you know that you're going into like a pile of crap, you get ready to hold your nose, and that's what we're pretty much doing. Is we've gone into the year holding our nose.
Yeah. What was 2020 like for you? I mean, you're a mobile man. You're able to travel, do all kinds of different things. But were you working? Were you affected by the virus big time?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so everyone was. And so for most people who have no clue what I do, I'm in tech. I've been doing tech since the late 90s. I decided in college to stop pursuing a criminal justice background. I was going to do something to do with law, whether it be, anywhere from the executive to the judicial, any of those branches, even legislative. I was a big history buff, still am. But midstream, I was like, oh, look at those people over there working on those computers. I think I can do that. That's the future. And I decided that I went from literally not knowing how to turn one on to enrolled in C++ programming class.
Yeah.
All in the same week. So, that was in the late 90s. So that's what I've been doing. I've actually had jobs in the past where I was remote as a field tech, and my latest job prior to the one I'm at now I was a senior field tech for all of Alabama. So that's why I bought this RV, because I was going to the off-road parks. I would be from Monday through Friday, I'd be in a hotel room, doing installations or whatever, repairs, patching installations or doing installations. And then I would leave on Friday afternoon, check out, and go to Hawk Pride or Morris Mountain or Choccolocco Mountain. And I would get to the park late Friday night, set my tent up, or either sleep in the back of my truck and wake up in the morning and people in their RVs next to me and they're fixing coffee. And I'm like, this is BS. I need an RV and I can go to the off-road parks and I can wake up in my queen size bed and I can fix coffee in the kitchen and I can turn on the TV and watch the news, which I hate watching the news now, but I do it every day. Yeah. But so I got an RV and I was like, well, I'm poor, so I can't have an RV beside a house. Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to live in my RV. Yeah. So Monday through Friday, I lived in my RV working. And then Saturday and Sunday, I went to the off-road parks and I broke down there. So wherever I was broke down. So I took this current job and they were like, you're coming in the office. And so I was like, well, crap, I'm not going to give this lifestyle up. And I didn't. I pretty much am sure that it's going to be a lifestyle that I'll have for the rest of my life, man. It's great. I mean, I'm single, don't have any kids that I know of. I don't have any wives that I know of. So
that's a good one. I like that one. I hadn't heard that one yet.
There's a lot of, all you got to do is hang out with me long enough. There's things that I say that no one's ever said that it actually surprises me that even I said it. So
I like that. Well, I like uniqueness and I like creativity and I like original things. So I here's what it is. I was drawn to you because a couple of different reasons. One, you are unique. You're hilarious. I see you on social media all the time, cracking me up. Two, I want to know more about you because, you do have a little bit of mystery to you a little bit because you are the traveling man. And three, I want to know who are you? Who is this guy that just travels and is all over the place and you kind of unpeel the layers because you're a pleasant guy to talk to. You're a pleasant guy to be around. And I was just so curious. So that's why I wanted to have you on the show.
I don't even know. I don't even know how.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks good.
You'll have to keep asking me those questions and get me back on track because I'll start going down a rabbit hole. And
No, that's
I
fine.
personally don't even like rabbit because I do have friends that love some rabbit, but I just soon have fish legs or sushi.
I like fish legs.
Fish legs is an Arkansas joke over that we were at. We went to a Chinese buffet over there in Hot Springs, and they literally had a sign that said fish legs.
That's not good.
So it's great.
Did you eat fish legs?
It actually ended up being chicken wings, but it was cool because it was like it was tempura fried chicken wings. Like tempura is like really hot, low, like a thin grease. And if you've ever had tempura, it's super awesome. Yeah. And so it was probably the second best chicken wings I've ever had. Barring Go to Sierra Nevada in North Carolina, the brewing company has the best chicken wings in the world, probably in the solar system. Uranus, Earth and Uranus is the two places that I've only ever eaten chicken wings.
I get it.
Yeah.
Let me roll you back in here because I got 3 questions already. Number 1, you said you were a history guy, and you kind of wanted to go down that route. If you had to pick one decade from 1900 to now, one decade that you'd like to have lived in, let's say you get to spend a year there, whether it's the roaring 20s, the 50s, the 70s, 80s, and you can go as your age now, or you can go, at 25 or whatever age you want. Where would you go and what time period would you be in?
Man, I mean, the 60s were cool because
pretty cool.
You could walk around bucket naked. Like, everybody looked like they had buckwheat in the leg lock. So I don't know that I would want that. So I'm going to have to go X on the 60s.
Okay.
The 70s, there was a lot of free love that had kind of carried over into the 70s. I don't know. That's a good question. I'll probably actually have to get back with you on that because
we'll loop back to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
My second question was, now I'm trying to remember my second question. That was so funny.
Yeah. That's a good question.
Yeah, your background in IT. So for those who don't know, I'm a developer. I write code, and Eric had mentioned before we got on the podcast that he, went to learn code. C++ is a coding language, all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah.
What was it about the IT side that drew you over there, other than the development side? Because it's a very, in my opinion, like left brain, right brain kind of switch where writing code is like writing a book. You're writing something down, but you're writing it in mathematical terms. Whereas IT is, kind of structure and like kind of steps. It's less left brain, more right brain.
Yeah. I decided literally in 48 hours that I was going to get into IT. I was kind of lost like everyone else. And my sister said, well, I'm going to school for programming. And I was like, okay. And she said, why don't you just move down here and go with me? And I was like, okay. And my mom was there. We were at my sister's house in Sarasota, Florida. My mom was there, and I just kept thinking about it. And then before we get ready to leave on Sunday, I was just like, yeah, I think I'm going to go back to Auburn and tell my boss I'm leaving, because I was working in a factory, man. I was literally putting 50 hours a week in a factory, running 100-ton presses, 120-ton presses, getting up. My press was running at 6 a.m. So I had just kind of, like everyone else, man, I think I was 22 by then, and I had just kind of lost my way. I was just like, I don't want to do what I'm doing. And so I was like, well, why don't I make a little bit more money in IT while I still don't know what I want to do?
Yeah.
So here I am 25 years later, still not knowing what I want to do.
Yeah.
Well, what is it? 20 years later. But yeah, I guess it would be 25 years later because that was kind of towards the late 90s. But so I went to school for programming, computer programming. I graduated and moved out to Seattle, Washington. Graduated one day, was on a plane the next. So I moved directly out to Seattle, and no one gets a good job in the beginning unless like you've already, kind of temped or whatever. I got into support, and that's what I really figured out my calling because I knew that I could speak code
Mm-hmm.
and I could program a computer if I wanted to, but I could also communicate everything that I was doing to the idiot who was punching the keyboard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
from a support role, people would call in and they'd be like, "Hey, I have no idea what I did with that email." And my immediate response is, "Neither do I. I don't know what you did with that email." But I'm like, "I will help you find it." And so that's what I did. And I mean, I literally, for the next 15 years, I wore any hat that the company wanted. I worked for small companies, and if it had a plug, they considered it tech, and I was in charge of it.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That can be wild.
Email servers to web servers to the security systems to I wasn't in charge of the Abacus because it didn't have a plug, but anything that literally had a plug, I was in the T-Mobile store once a week because everyone who had a phone, I was responsible for it.
Wow.
So,
That's the side of, I tell people all the time, like, hey, I have a degree in computer science. And they're like, oh, great. You can do two things for me. You can fix my Wi-Fi and fix my printer. And I'm like, I have, the last time I used a printer was 2011. Okay.
Yeah. I can't tell you the last time. Oh, I printed something over the Christmas break because we put something in the kids' presents to where they had to read it. Well, I had forgotten that the 6-year-old can't really read all that well. So
yeah,
there's that. But I don't have a printer, man. I had to go down to like FedEx copy and print it out off of an email.
Listen. I grew up in a family where my dad was very like, he's a salesman for dental equipment, but he was very like cutting edge technology. We were the first. We had an intercom system in our house so that he didn't have to yell up in my room, and it had a button where you could page somebody, and it would just like beep them over and over and over again. That's how he would wake us up.
Yeah.
And my dad had a printer and like a fax line for the house, the whole 9 yards, had a full home office. And I told my dad the other day, he's like, hey, do you have a printer, or do you want a printer? Because, it just needs new ink and blah, 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 blah. It's cheaper than going to buy a new printer, whatever. And I was like, I can't tell you the last time I've actually needed a printer, because at this point, I mean, everything can go to a PDF and everybody accepts a PDF via email. And that's just like, that's how it is. So I agree with you, because, I say that's the last time I needed one. I had to ship something back to Amazon, and they're like, your driver will be there tomorrow at 11 a.m. to pick it up and print this return label and put it on the package. And I was like scrambling. Yep. And somehow, and I don't know, it's amazing, UPS printed the label for me, showed up at my house. I handed them a box and they smacked it on there. And I was like, thank God, man, because I was about to run down the, Kinko's.
Speaking of printers, how has no one in our off-road world started using 3D printers yet? Like, why has no one caught on that they can actually produce? Because, so I lived in Auburn for 20 years. The last 10 years, I was friends with everyone down there at APR, Audi Performance Racing, which if you're into anything German car, APR because they started down in Auburn. Well, they had the first 3D printer that I'm aware of, and it was like the size of a room. It was huge.
Yeah.
It took them a full day to build like this one little exhaust port. But they were building they were building things with it. They were prototyping parts for their everything. I wonder, why are we not doing that yet in the off-road world with 3D printers, man?
I think the people that are really like innovative, have so much load on them. I think guys like Ross Pilgreen, who did all the hydraulic stuff for UTVs. I think about. I talked to Jake Berkey about that. So Axial is a sponsor of the podcast, and I bought. I'll grab it here in just a second. I bought their SCX 10 or their SCX 24, and it's a palm size version of their SCX 10 car. Yeah. And I told Jake, I was like, man, what you need to do is you need to buy 5 of these little 1/24 scale cars, and you need to 3D print, because you have everything in CAD. Every one of your chassis, you have them in CAD. 3D print them, slap them on this little body, and set them in your showroom and say, this is what the trail version looks like. This is the race version. And every single manufacturer of parts, chassis, whatever it may be, should have a 3D printed version that a customer can come in, put their hands on, look at it, and see how the final product's going to turn out. Because I mean, being able to put your hands on something is incredible. But in terms of making parts out of it, I just don't know. I mean, you can take a CAD file directly to a 3D printer, and we're already doing that. Just you don't see guys wanting to, I guess, invest the time in printing, because printing is a hard process to learn. I'm not sure if you've ever done it, but it sucks.
What type of printing is? What are you talking about?
3D printing.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's not fun.
No.
And it's not nearly like printing out a sheet of paper. I mean, it takes, like I was saying, the folks that had that huge room size 3D printer back 15 years ago. I mean, in order for them to build like this little piece that was this what would take them like 4 hours.
Yeah.
You would, layer by layer, by layer. And it was slow. I mean, you could go in there and watch it through the little glass.
Yeah.
But,
have you seen
what they do?
Have you seen the 3D printed houses yet?
Oh yeah.
Dude, that's the craziest stuff to me in the whole world. How they're just pouring. I mean, it's same technology, just bigger, and they're pouring concrete with it.
Oh yeah, just with concrete machine looking things. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's.
I'll tell you, man. I've thought a lot about like the RC guys, for example.
Yep.
I talked to one of the top RC guys on YouTube. I talked to Harley Designs for a while. I talked to a bunch of the chassis guys, and I was like, why don't you guys, the chassis that you guys have made that you guys are selling for $150 that take you, an hour and a half to build out.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys 3D print a version, sell them for $50? Someone can buy 3 of them because, people like quantity over quality every single time.
Yeah.
And I was like, you guys just do these and print them out of carbon fiber if you really want to make something nice. And I think the RC market is probably like a prime candidate for that to get the cost down.
Yeah.
But just no one's doing it yet.
You talk about RC. I thought that I was going to buy my way into the RC race scene, and I bought a very famous RC bouncer.
I remember.
Yeah, it was. It was not. It wasn't a very popular full size bouncer, but because of who built it. In the RC world and just the workmanship and the craftsmanship, I ended up, it landed in my lap, and I promptly took it out here and broke it. And, just like my old rock bouncer, rock crawler, I take it to AOP and break it within like literally 3 minutes. Yeah. Like going up the first hill, I would break and have to limp back to camp, and I'd be in camp for 3 days. And that's exactly what I do with my RC. Yeah. I took it out, first hill broke, boom. It's like, what the heck? Yeah. So I never actually got to race in the RC series. And by the time that I had already invested in like 3 wraiths, and I had this other chassis, I was just like, I'm done. Take it all. People buy peanuts. And the brothers Hobacks bought all my crap from me, or most of it. And they parted it out and did good because all the parts were top notch. They were nice parts.
Yeah.
I can't do what they do.
So let me ask you this, because I'll say this too. This section may be edited out depending on how tomorrow goes.
Oh,
but, there is big news. I have big news. So Axial Racing has released their rock bouncer. And again, if you're listening to this part, everything went as planned. If this never makes it to the episode,
we will see
it. It got canned. It got edited out.
Yes, you took the blue pill. You didn't take the red pill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But let me tell you this: they have built something called the Axial Racing Rift, and it's the RBX 10. I think it's going to retail like $550, which it's fairly comparable to what all the other ready to runs are.
Oh, absolutely.
It's pretty, let me tell you, it's really, really stout for what it is. So what you were saying about being able to drive it on and off the trail and breaking it, and I want to take a minute and talk about it because this is a really cool car. It just came out on Thursday because this podcast is being released on Friday, so it came out yesterday. It's really durable. I have beat the crap out of it. I got an opportunity to get it early. I've had it for almost 3.5 months now, and I have beat the snot out of it.
Wow.
Something that they've done that was really unique was they put open differentials front, rear, and center. Yeah, right. That's the same thing I thought. But what they did was they put 1 million weight fluid in all the differentials. So it's pretty close to locked, but it's not. It's got like a built-in buffer system to where, if you land on something, it's not going to shoot you off one direction, or it's not going to move unpredictably,
right?
Because it'll wait for everything to get planted before it goes. It's really great. They have an orange ready to run, a black ready to run. It's got giant cut super swamper tires. It's really, really cool. There's a video on the Racing on the Rocks YouTube page. You guys can go check it out. But if you're looking to race, Eric, I may be at some of the Southern Rock Racing Series events. I will have the car with me, and you are welcome. 100%.
Yeah.
Yep. So here's the thing.
Take my money. Shut up and take my money.
So here's the thing is Southern Rock, I'm pretty sure this is out. They're going to be having a stock class for RC as well, which is completely unmodified. My machine is completely unmodified. So you're welcome to come get it off the table and go race it. You can finally get your chance to race.
Unmod. Are you going to show it to us?
Oh,
you can't. You can't?
I can. Here it is. So you got big tires. These are the biggest tires that Axial's ever made. It's got the longest wheelbase of any Axial car ever made. It's big. I mean, this car compared to everything else is absolutely giant. It is it's amazing. So very cool. Comes in an orange color, comes in a black. The orange one is orange and purple, and the black one is black and green. Really cool car, fun to drive. Right out of the gate, got plenty of power. You can pretty much beat the absolute tar out of it. Like I said, I've put almost 30 hours on it hard, and it's done really well for me.
I wonder what would they? I wonder how much they would take off if I only needed one passenger. Like,
see, that's one thing I did. I never brought it up because when I got the prototype, it was kind of past the R&D phase. And I was like, rock bouncers don't have two drivers, but whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you probably get half off your entry fee if it's only one driver in there.
Because speaking of the configuration of a rock bouncer, back when rock bouncing first started, I swore to everybody, and when I'm saying it first started, like it's back when Nolan Grogan actually termed the phrase rock bouncer on Hardline Crawler's web forum. I had always said that I was going to have like an Alabama rock bouncer with like corrugated steel sides, like a shingled roof, and I was going to have a front porch swing that we sat in. Instead of and it was going to be a bench style seat, and it was literally going to be a wooden front porch swing. And instead of having a cooler in the back, I was going to actually have a deep freeze where you picked it up, and that's where you opened up the little small deep freeze in the back of it was going to be sweet.
That's a great idea.
It was a great idea. I'm talking like,
what happened to execution?
I'm not very good. I'm good I'm good at marketing, but I'm not good at engineering. Like I'm not going to be the person out there. I'll be like, hey, I'll see y'all in the morning, and I hope we have a good product.
Yeah. I understand for sure. But we derailed a little bit. I want to get back to you because you are the star of this episode.
Okay.
Obviously, you've played this huge role in the off-road community, especially in the Southeast, the Alabama area. How did you get into it?
I didn't do anything. I was just around yelling at folks.
But that's just it. So here's the thing that kind of is special about the OG rock crawler guys. Like Ricky B was there taking pictures, and it's so funny. He
was a young kid, by the way. He wasn't even an adult back then.
Yeah,
he could barely drive. His dad, Rich, had a TJ on 39s, and little bit old Ricky just in there driving. I mean, and so about 6 or 7 years ago, I saved one of Ricky B's external hard drives that had a decade's old worth of photos. Because I'm in tech, and he was like, I was like, whatever happened to this ride back in I think it was 2005. He's like, oh man, that was on a hard drive that died. I said, bring that hard drive over here, dude. I can resurrect that hard drive.
So we had in the freezer.
we had a little hard drive seance. Had my little IKEA candles all the way around it, and I resurrected all those pictures. And he probably had close to 500 gigs worth of pictures on that.
Wow.
And it was huge. It was a 500 gig, like, Western Digital or let's see hard drive or whatever it was. But
yeah, it probably cost $300 too, or $400-$500, man.
He was a kid back then, dude.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's all we knew how to do was just to, the riding is wet and you got to hump those rocks. You're not going to crawl jack in the South. It ain't going to happen. You're going to mud wamping, Bible banging hollow, whatever. All these people that used to get on it and just, let them headers sing, let them get redder in my head. Those headers would glow.
Yeah.
But I didn't really have anything big, man. I've always only been in Toyota Land Cruisers. And I remember I was at Morris Mountain once and I crawled, I think it was V-Notch, crawled up V-Notch in my full-bodied 91 Toyota Land Cruiser.
Damn.
And as soon as I got up at the top, one of the dudes in a buggy, he's like, "What's his daddy do?" And I jumped out of the truck. I was like, my daddy? I was like, because that truck I paid $4,000 for, your buggy is a $30,000 buggy. Your trailer costs more than my Land Cruiser, and you're pulling it on a Dirty Max that is probably $50,000. So I guess I should ask you what your mom or dad does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've always just beat the crap out of old Toyotas is what I do. I mean, that's.
So let me ask you this. Let me interject here because I want to make sure that we get this timeline right. When did you connect with this crew? And what vehicle were you in? You said
I think everybody was just showing up. I don't know that there was
where were you guys showing up?
There wasn't really a connection. I think that just Chaos Central Alabama Off-Road Society is the one club in Birmingham that would host at least 4 events at Grey Rock. And Grey Rock has never been open to the public. The only time you could ever go to Grey Rock was during an event. And if you hear people talk about the old days of Grey Rock, it was like back when you could go, back when open events. No, it wasn't. That was Chaos hosting events. So they had like Fall for All, Spring Fling, February Frenzy, and a few others. I can't remember. I'm missing, but they would host it and allow the public to come. So they would rent the park out, and then the entire public could come for the entire weekend. And that's when people were putting beat downs on these rigs, and especially Cable Hill.
Yeah.
But during that same time, I was going to Teleco. There was one year I went to
Teleco. What is Teleco? I've heard that thrown around.
Teleco's been around forever. It's in the Cherokee National Forest.
Okay.
Did you say where is it?
I was just gonna say, what is it? I've heard it thrown. I've heard Teleco. I've heard Jellicoe. I think too.
Jellicoe's up in Tennessee, and Teleco is technically in North Carolina, but it's literally so. You know where the Teleco Plains exit is on I-75?
I don't, but other people do.
Okay, so probably about 20 miles north of Chattanooga.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, well then, so if you start heading east, you're going to hit Teleco Plains. And then you probably have about a 15-mile, and it's on River Road. But since you can only go like 25, 30 miles an hour because it winds so bad, because it's following the river, like right on the river. And it's a tiny little road. So it takes you probably an hour to get to the actual campsites of Teleco.
Wow.
And it was national land. It was national forest land, and it was open to ride. I mean, they had like a little pay station that you would put your $5 day use pass in money, and because there was no gate. I mean, there was nobody actually manning the gate, so to speak. But they did have U.S. Forest Service rangers out there that would and could bust you. They would empty coolers, ban you if they found beer, alcohol, no firearms. And obviously, you get deep onto the trail and you would see both of those, firearms and alcohol. But they wouldn't be deep on the trail because they were in like just stock Jeeps and XJ. So they'd only be on the main trail. It was amazing, dude. It was really it was great for me to cut my teeth there. I guess aggressive as an off-roader. Shoot, my brother had a CJ7 back in the early 80s. And so I grew up getting stuck in the mud. I mean, that's what we did. And I'm the youngest of 5, and we grew up dirt poor. But being the youngest, I was the one that had to walk out. So, I mean, there were times where I walked out probably 8 miles because we were so far back in the trail. We'd be down in Conecuh County in Alabama or Butler County, and it's all these little southern counties in South Alabama. And man, we'd be deep, and he'd be like, I'm going to stay at the truck. You go walking out. And so me and my other brother would start walking out. And I specifically remember one time it got to be about 11 o'clock at night, and we still weren't out. I mean, we were walking down the dirt road, and we stopped at the first house we came up on, and luckily the dude actually let us in and helped us and I think we called my mom. Man, what's funny is I do believe my mom went all the way back to my brother's Jeep in a 78 Pontiac Grand Prix. Just raw dogging it. It's like, how do you get a Pontiac Grand Prix beyond some of the and there were people in trucks going, oh, whoa, Miss Hagan, you don't need to take that car. It's like, get out of my way. I'm going. I mean, and that's where my craziness came from, was my mom, for sure.
Well, she's trying to get to her babies, man. It's a whole different fury for that kind of thing.
There was a time where she drove a bus to make ends meet. So she was a school teacher, but that didn't pay enough. So she also drove the bus. There was a route that no one would even go down. It would rain so bad, and they would wash the gullies so bad that nobody would go down it. She was just like, I do this. I mean, so she took a big old bus down this road, and I wish there was video then, because there was one time where the kid said that she was actually in the ditch, but she didn't stop. You know, as long as it's moving, she's going. And she went in the ditch and pulled that bus out of the ditch and kept going. It was
that's part of it, right? Like the whole name of the game is momentum, and if you got.
And that she was doing rock bouncing long before rock bouncing was even a term.
That's right.
I mean, she had the kids in the back, didn't have any seatbelts on. No seatbelts, no helmets.
Listen, back of the bus, you always got that extra bounce back there. Plenty of cushion back there. They're fine.
Oh, just killing it. Miss Becky could driving.
That's awesome. So when did it transfer over though into, this point where you guys are in buggies? Because everyone was, in these primarily Jeeps, and then they went to, Brian Cole comes in and adds in the cage and everything like that. Was that the turning point?
I think that was where it was. The competition is what really caused the buggies to have to take off. And there were just one-off competitions all over the place. There was a lot of throwing $100 bills around for the fastest to the top, and I think even I know a handful of people who won fastest to the top on Cable Hill. But Ricky had his Mountain Mayhem, I think is what he first called it, in 2010 at RBD, and people just thought that was cool. And then Timmy jumped up in the air just to put on the show. And then the next year they had about 3 or 4 people that jumped just to put on the show, which, just caused a riot, so to speak. And at the same time, Jake was doing stuff in the riot buggy up in Tennessee at, what was that, Sparta, Golden Mountain, doing stuff and running into folks, not literally running into them, but meeting people. Yeah. And it was a little one-off comps, like at Golden Mountain, having that Bounty Hill and just having, stupid. But so everybody started in what everybody refers to as cab trucks. I mean, that's just where everyone starts. That's just because that's what you got when you turn 16. And that's actually probably what you were working on before you were 16, because you were either working on your dad's, your brother's, or your cousin's, your cousin's mom, or whoever had that next door. You were working on those cab trucks, and you were hitting the local mud hole, and that's how it really started. We were hitting hills. I mean, and we were hitting some hills. The majority of them were clearly illegal, but I think that's how everyone gets started, because they like, oh, they didn't care if we hit that hill. It's like, yeah, they cared. They just weren't there to catch you doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, we still have people in Alabama still doing that. I mean, as long as you have kids that are 16, you're going to have that, and they're going to be the ones that evolve into buggies. But it's funny to me to show up to a park and see these little rail buggies with a little VW engine in them, and I've never seen a young guy in one of those. They're all like the 50 and 60-year-olds.
Yes, you're exactly right.
They were the people before rock bouncers, and they still have them. I mean, if you look at their rotted tires, those tires have been on that rail buggy for 30 years now.
Yeah.
And those guys were at Teleco. I mean, they were sitting there just, raw dogging it up, lower two and helicopter pad and 2-wheel drive buggies, man. It's crazy to see those things. As soon as those front tires leave the ground, they're no longer steering.
Yeah.
They might as well just put their hands behind and they just gas it. I mean, there's no steering on it.
I've watched videos of those because, to give you some perspective, I came into all of this about 2012.
Yeah.
When I jumped in all this stuff. And I didn't see a rail buggy until maybe, 4 years ago or so. And I was like, these idiots. And then you watch them and you're just like, whoa, this is a whole
it's fun to watch some of these hills that are designed for rail buggies.
Yeah.
Because some of these small, tiny parks that you go to were really designed for those rail buggies. I mean, they're just like straight up hills, and there's nothing to those things. Like if you look at them, they literally have like a bedpost for a roll bar.
Yeah.
It's not even an automatic. Somebody just like they renovated their house. They're like, that could be a roll bar. Like, well, that'd be a whole bed.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's there's nothing to them. I mean, they might be made out of fence post.
Yeah, one of the things that got me, because I actually saw one at Adventure Off-Road Park this weekend when I went for the New Year's thing. It's so crazy to me because I didn't realize how much ground clearance they had, because it's like, the engine and the transmission are sitting up here, and they actually cut like circles out in the frame for the axles to come like where the frame should be.
Yeah.
And it's not like a crazy angle or anything like that.
Like Hummers, like where you got the CVs go up. And so basically, and well, the other thing that should be noted is a lot of them make it so they lift their front end up. So it's only 2 wheels on the ground. You have nothing up front. I mean, they're popping wheelies all the way up the hill.
I was shocked that they didn't use any kind of assisted steering either.
No.
That was one of the weirdest parts to me, because I was like, steering is the biggest part of rock bouncers, in my opinion, steering and suspension, because the control and finesse is where we're starting to see guys improve now. And we have these super complicated steering setups and UTVs and bouncers. And then I looked at those and I was like, it is literally the same thing you'd get in like your Sam's Club Patriot Cruiser 1-wheel peel go-kart. It's the same straight shaft to another straight shaft. And I was like, this is bananas, man. It's totally crazy.
Yeah, that is a breed that and talk about a generation. You asked me what era I'd want to live in, what decade. Yeah. Well, I mean that's if you were wheeling in the 70s, that's what you were wheeling. If you're wheeling in the early 80s, that's what you were wheeling. Yeah, that is who was showing up to the off-road parks long before 4-wheelers were, and razors and everything else. But yeah,
we'll talk about razors in a minute, because I want to get your opinion on the evolution of how that all has come across.
Yeah,
but you guys were all in trail machines. When did it jump to, bounce them if you got them and show me your boggers? When did it get to this point where
there?
Yeah, buddy.
If you got them. I'm known for my sign. At least I used to be. A lot of people be like, he's the guy with the signs. And the young kids are like, what?
Yeah.
I don't know what signs. I wanted, the whole idea of the signs was like, we were sitting on the side of the hill at Morris Mountain, and I was like, the next one I come to is going to be a pep rally, because this is a party on both sides of the mountain. I mean, we need to be able to sit on top of these guys coming up the mountain. which, totally, don't do that. Don't be standing right beside a machine just hissing at you and spitting race fuel on your face, and you just lapping it up, talking about, I love it. Don't do that. But that sign right there, I made about 4 or 5 signs. That was one of the originals. Just came up with stupid sayings. So as they were coming up the hill, I was holding the sign up to the drivers. And it's like, I don't want you to die, but I want you to come real close to it.
Yeah.
I'm a Uber fan.
Yeah.
I want to see some carnage. I want to see things break, because I'll help you load it up, but I ain't got to take it home.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about that a lot, because I want to have this discussion with you too, about Bounty Hill versus, drag racing style.
Yeah.
And I equate the Bounty Hill stuff a lot to like an MMA fight. Like if you go and Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor fight in January 23rd on UFC, and it's going to be bananas. And deep down inside, regardless of what you say, you want to see 2 guys go out there and smash each other into the ground.
Yep.
And there'd be a one, Braveheart style warrior that's like got hanging on by a thread, but he made it through. That's really what we want. And it's the same kind of like gut thing deep down inside you that wants to go and watch a hill and watch, both drive shaft fall out of it and 2 axles break out of the car. Like, do you wish that on somebody? Definitely not.
We want to see that,
yes.
But we also don't want to wait on that either.
Yeah, that's true.
The harder you break, the longer the intermission is.
Yes.
And the hills don't have, which I have actually seen it. I have been to a race where there were people serving food and drinks on the side of the hill, which to me is brilliant. Yeah. Like it saddens me to go to an event, especially like a race event, and see these food trucks that go, oh, there's going to be 10,000 people at this event. We're going to strike it rich. Well, they set up, and then all day long they're just sitting there just twiddling their thumbs because everybody's at the race hill. They're up there at camp, or they're up there at the entrance. It's like, you're not going to have, and then they break, and then you stand in line for an hour to try to get food, but you can't do it. It ain't going to happen. But
I've never understood why they don't have somebody on the hill taking food.
They allow that food vendor to just decide what they're going to do. They're like, hey, you want to come? And the food vendor goes, yeah. Well, the food vendor don't know. Mm-hmm. I've actually been to a private Toyota event, and the food vendor thought, he was like, oh, there's 300 people registered. So he made 300 biscuits that first day, because he thought he was feeding everybody. And he was happy when we were talking to him the first time. He was like, he was thinking, okay, I'm going to make $3 for every 300 biscuits. Well, no one ate because we were there to camp. Yeah. And so we were making our own food. And so he left the biscuits. This was at Halt Pride. He left the biscuits on the table and left and never came back. So, because it wasn't that he was misinformed. I think he just misunderstood. Yeah. And there's a lot of vendors like that. And I truly think that if you're going to sell food, pack it in a cart and get it to the people, like when you're at a baseball game, peanuts here,
Got it. So funny.
Send it, just throw it at folks.
Yeah, it's so funny. I don't know if this is messed up or not. There was a race at Adventure Off-Road Park, and I was down there. People were, sweating their balls off it was like the middle of the summer. I went down, got myself some food, and I bought, I think, like $50 worth of soda. And I just took them up and I said, hey, I'm selling soda. I paid $1 for them, the $2 up here. Dude, I sold out, and I was just doing it just because I was like, hey, you know what? Whatever. Like, I'll make a couple bucks, but obviously people are super thirsty and not everybody can make it down there and make it back up here because people are old or whatever it may be, whatever. Do the thing. I sold out super quick, and I thought to myself, man, someone should take advantage of this. And then I had a little thing on my Facebook the other day, and one guy posted a picture of his Razor with he's a delivery man, and he had his Papa John sign thingy on top of his Razor. And I was like, dude, if you showed up at an off-road, any off-road event, and you had 20 pizzas in the little bag, and you just drove down the trail, people will stop you. People will pay $14 for that medium pizza. And
dude, don't even sell the whole pizza. Sell it by the slice.
Boom.
Sell the slice. I mean, $5 a slice. People will be pissed at you.
Yeah,
but they won't be hungry because they'll be eating it.
Well, and I'll tell you what, man, just go and open the bag. You know, you got 20 bucks, just open the bag and sit there. That's it. That's all you got to do. And especially in some of these like wet, cold races. I think about that all the time. I'm like, man, somebody needs, like, I'm going to start bringing ponchos and stuff to some of the racers and just say, hey, if you guys need a poncho, come get them. But you know, somebody needs to be out there selling ponchos, selling snacks, whatever it may be. So I hope one of you listeners is, you know, thinking about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let me ask you, because, you know, we're in a different setting than it used to be. Everything is different. I shunt you not.
That's sorry.
Oh, I like it. No. I like it. It's more than I got, man.
I'm bionic. I'm the $1 million man. That's my medical. That's my medical thing.
Tell me about that, because I want to know your story too, and I want to know a little bit about, you know, you're a cheerful guy. You don't take days for granted at all. Tell me a little bit about your process.
Well, you see how I'm sitting right now, man. My back is killing me. I have a herniated disc at L4, L5, and I have sciatica in both legs, which is really weird because you typically only have it on your left leg, but I have it literally in both legs, and I'm just avoiding that surgery because I've had so many surgeries, and so my lower back has been lumbar punctured probably 36 times. So my lower back looks like a pin cushion because I've had to have lumbar drains. So I've leaked cerebral spinal fluid. I started back in the early 90s when I had a tumor on my pituitary gland removed. So they went into the side of my head. They opened up my skull. And so I had a tumor that was the size of a lemon on my pituitary gland. And it was so large that it had wrapped around my optic nerves. And that's kind of how we started suspecting it, because I was losing my vision on I was getting tunnel vision because the tumor was wrapped around the optic nerve. So it's pressing on the optic nerves, causing tunnel vision. So, I was having massive headaches. So the tumor was so large that it basically had taken up any space that it could possibly take up. And once there was no more space, it just started pushing on everything: my brain, my hypothalamus, my sinuses, everything. So a CAT scan or an MRI showed what it was. So they went in and got it. Fast forward 15 years, man, I got bacterial meningitis. And I had that for 3 days before actually anyone really kind of was like, you've got meningitis. So that supposedly started leaking cerebral spinal fluid. And from there, the bone behind my sinuses just disintegrated and they couldn't stop it. So I spent about 6 months in and out of the hospital in 2008, where they literally could not stop my cerebral spinal fluid, which, for anyone who doesn't know, that's the fluid that your brain floats in. Your brain floats in cerebral spinal fluid. And if anybody doesn't know how bad I felt during that time period, if you've ever had a hangover happens because you're so dehydrated, you dehydrate yourself of cerebral spinal fluid. That's the reason why your head hurts. Because you're so dehydrated, you have no fluid in your head either. And that's why it takes a day to replenish it, because it takes that long for your body to actually produce cerebral spinal fluid. Well, I was leaking mine out of my nose. I mean, it was coming out. And there was a time where they just did not feel like it was going to stop. They didn't feel like they could patch it. I mean, it was kind of like all the king's horses and all the king's men was like, we can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. We just simply can't do it. So they kept going through my nose, moving my entire sinuses over, working on it, moving my sinuses back, only to release me, to let me come back into my room and it start leaking again. So they put the shunt in right here. And so what that shunt does is I have a tube that goes down into my brain. It goes to that. And then I have a tube that goes down my neck and into my abdomen. And this is all like under my skin. You can't see it other than that lump. And it's just a valve. It's like a blow-off valve. Like once my cerebral spinal fluid hits a certain pressure, like 20 psi, it blows off into my abdomen. So our body naturally does that now. I mean, your body is making X amount of cerebral spinal fluid at the same time absorbing X amount. And so it's a perfect kind of harmony.
Yeah.
Mine either makes too much or is not absorbing it. So I have a excess buildup, and it caused pressure, blew the bone out of my sinuses. And now that valve basically regulates me.
Wow.
So since then, I've had massive infections on my cerebral spinal fluid that's almost killed me a few times. This is a man-made device in me, so it's going to fail. Your body is constantly trying to reject it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had it fail a couple of times, and usually the way you know that it's about to fail is that your head starts hurting, and you just have a massive headache that you can't get rid of. So yeah, man, I've had 2 decades worth of all that. And then, 2018, I came down with throat cancer. So, it was HPV throat cancer. A lot of people were like, don't vaccinate your kids. And I'm not going to tell you whether or not you should or you shouldn't, but I didn't have kids, so I didn't know anything about HPV.
Yeah.
I did have my tonsils. So the one thing that I will tell men is, if you have your tonsils, pay very close attention to your throat. If you have a sore throat, but you don't actually have a sore throat, you need to seek medical attention as soon as you can.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I am absolutely a walking miracle with everything that I've gone through, beating cancer, beating cerebral spinal fluid, having a rare form of mold in my cerebral spinal fluid where even the most elite doctors look at me and are like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, what do you mean what I want to do? Like, well, we've never had anybody ever survive this. So do you want to keep taking these antibiotics? I was like, I'll take them for another week. And they're like, okay, that's good. So there's papers written up at UAB hospital about me. My neuroendocrinologist said that he has actually saved a dozen people on the procedures that he learned by operating on me. He has now saved other people.
Dude, praise God. That's amazing, man.
Yeah, man. So you just gotta have being the youngest of 5 and growing up with power being cut off, not knowing. I mean, we never had a telephone. You just learn to be thankful. I mean, there were people in our lives growing up that saw to it that we always had what we needed. In life, you don't necessarily know if you're going to have what you want, but you're more than likely always going to have what you need.
Yeah.
And, that's the one thing that we just should all be thankful for is you can find miracles. Modern miracles are around us. And all you got to do is just open your mind up and just look around. You'll see them.
Yeah.
You'll absolutely see them.
Yeah, that's the whole mindset of being present too. I know that's like a big plague of, the current day or my generation. Cause I turned 26 on Sunday. So I'm thank you, man. I'm the generation that's easy to pick on because, most of us are just head down on a phone and not, we're just disconnected, but connected in a different way. And it's true. One thing that I have always talked about was, especially I used to every January do like a 30-day fast from like secular media and things like that. And one thing I would always really try to spend time focusing on was, like, Lord, show me something that's so undeniably you that I will see it. And show me these things. And, as I've gotten older, I'm like, is it the placebo? Did I see placebo? Did I make myself, think, oh, I saw something great and this is it. And then time and time again, I'm like, man, there's just a lot of so much of what has happened is it is chance, but it's no way it can be chance, and those are the things that, as you go through life and you get in the routine and you go through day to day and you kind of set backwards, like, maybe you don't stay in tune and in sync with the Lord, or with whatever it is you may pursue.
Yeah.
You don't stay in sync as much. And it's one of those things that it's so good to hear a testimony like yours, hear a story like yours, because man, like, how amazing is that? And I'm sure when you look at it, you look at it and you're just like, you've got a purpose here. Your purpose is here to do something, and you're, yet to do it, still to do it. And I think that that's amazing. And I think that
I might be actively doing it. I don't really know.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do know, I was raised to know that I was born on one Sunday and I was in church the next. And I know that, I'm the youngest of 5. We were all full-blooded, but by the time that I was born, my mom and dad had already divorced. So I was pretty much raised from a single parent, but I knew my dad growing up. I would see him throughout growing up. But if we chose, my mom always let us choose if we weren't going to church or not. If we didn't go to church, that was fine. She wouldn't make us, but we also didn't do anything for the rest of that week until we went back to church. Yeah. That was our grounding if we didn't go to church. So we always went to church. Plus, I'm social, man, and church is all about social. So I went in the mornings, went in the day, went on Wednesday, went to youth. Being poor, some of my best trips as a kid was youth group trips to the beach. That's the only time I ever got to go and spend the night at the beach, was if I was in 4-H or a youth retreat. So, but that being said, I didn't really, there was never a childhood moment where I was born again, because I was raised in it. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really have an aha moment being, with faith. And I'm sure all of our listeners are pretty much God-fearing. And I was God-fearing growing up. And I think as I went to college and kind of fell out of that whole thing, and I never gave up, but I did kind of fall out of it, just because I think all young adults in some degree do. But as I picked back up and gone through all the hardships that I've gone through as an adult, whether, you call it hardships or blessings or whatever you want to call it, I don't necessarily fear God as much as people used to do or instill in that as a kid. I'm more of an admirer. Mm-hmm. I'm God admirer now. I don't really fear him at all. I think everything that he does is a blessing. And, God makes no mistakes. So everything that I go through, whether I feel it's bad or not, those were God's intentions. I mean, that's what he needed me to go through for whatever purpose he has me on here. So I look at every day like that. And so as I sit here and hurt because my back is hurting, my head's hurting, all the stuff right now literally is hurting, there's a reason why it is. So I look at that from a positive perspective, is I've got to go through this. And if not for me, for someone else, it's for something. Yeah. And I mean, there's things going on right now in this country, as we talked about earlier. Yeah. We have to go through that. I mean, everything happens for a reason. And if we don't know it, we can label it whatever we want to label it. We can label it ironic, any type of human label we put on these circumstances are okay, but they're still going to happen. Yeah. Nothing makes it right or wrong. Only thinking makes it so. So,
man, I love hearing this stuff, because being young and I've got a wife, I've got a 7-year-old stepdaughter, and I've got a son coming next month. And man, it's one of those things where, I think young people like myself and people younger than me, they so desperately need mentorship from someone who has been doing this a lot longer than us, who has made some of the mistakes for us. And I so desperately think that mentorship and the idea of, the older generation speaking down to the younger generation in a positive manner and passing on those truths, man, is so valuable. And I feel like it's lost for my generation. It's so hard to go out and try and find someone that, you feel like would be a good fit for a mentor. Yeah. Because it's just this weird time that we live in. And, there's just so many different things that come into play. And that's something I'm trying to do right now. Is I'm trying to find somebody that I feel is an adequate mentor that has been through and had life experience, and can lead me in a way that lives their life in a way that I'd like to replicate. It's a moving target all the time. Actually, I have a book that's open here right now, and it's got all my things in it. And one of the things I wrote down here today was just spend some time thinking about mentors. Spend some time praying about finding your mentor. It's something I've been meaning to do for a long time. And it's so funny. I called one of my friends today, and I was like, "How do you manage all these things?" Because like I told him, I was like, I have the podcast. I've got a few other things in the wings. I've got a baby, a family, all these things. And I just need to know how to manage. And just being able to ask somebody, how do you get through? Yeah. How do you make it through? Someone who's 50, 55 years old, how did you make it through all this? And
I just keep on working until you can't,
Yeah.
I personally feel like, especially in our day and age right now, in our level at this time stamp in our society, as I ride by a Taco Bell and see cars wrapped around it twice, and I'm going, why would you sit in a Taco Bell drive-through for over an hour and wait on 3 soft tacos?
Yeah.
Why not just go home and make something? But the thing about that is we have been taught not to make anything for ourselves. And that's not just food, man. That's like you pop open the hood to your truck and it's got a sheet of plastic over that. And that, even though it is a piece of it's a engine cover, the engineers have designed that so that you pop open that hood because you're going to check your own oil, but you see this thing covered over your hood. Well, you stop and you go, oh, I'll just shut it and I'll take it to the dealership. Mm-hmm. There's a strategy behind that. They don't want you to do it.
Yeah.
And they being society, I don't really think that there is any covert group not wanting you to do everything. I just think that that's the way we have started evolving, is that we don't do anything for ourselves anymore. There's cars coming without spare tires in them because they want you to call AAA.
God, that's such a bad idea.
Yeah. A lot of those little Hyundais and Kias don't have spare tires.
That's amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
I don't.
What happens when you have a blowout?
Yeah.
Because we all know that people, I grew up, my mom's car had 4 different branded tires on it. Mm-hmm. She never had good tires. I learned how to drive a car being pulled down the interstate with a chain. That's how I learned how to drive. We had a car break down. She goes, okay, Eric, you're going to steer the car being pulled. I was like, I'm 10.
Yeah.
I said, I will beat your butt.
Yeah.
And so I did it, and she's like, and one thing, you better not let this thing hit the front car. So we had a Grand Prix being pulled by Monte Carlo down I-65, just, probably doing about 45 with the flashers on until the battery ran out and my flasher stopped working. So here I am being pulled with the chain down the, at one point, man, I'm telling you, we actually had a chain break. So we cut off a seatbelt. And this is where I learned that seatbelts are probably one of the strongest materials known to man. We pulled a car with a seatbelt, like probably about 100 miles. Like we didn't use trailers, man. We used other vehicles to pull vehicles because
amazing.
That's just what poor people do. So that's what we did. But yeah, I do believe for the rest of the life of that car, the hook underneath it had a seatbelt tied to it because we couldn't get that knot undone. So we just cut the little little seatbelt knot on it.
Yeah. Man, that's crazy. It's so funny how the past shapes who you are now,
Oh yeah. So to me, off-roading is like, talking about my mom driving a school bus full of children down a dirt road, hitting ditches and getting out of the ditch. So like, I lived in Auburn for a long time, and I had some friends. I was walking by after a tailgate, and I had some friends was like, dude, you think you can pull this truck out? And so I looked at it. I was like, can I get in it and try to get it out? And they were like, oh man, we've been trying for over an hour. We can't get this truck out. I was like, you mind if I try? So, and it was like a Tahoe Z71. And, so I start rocking it, man. And in literally like 45 seconds, I had this dude's Tahoe out of the ditch that he said he couldn't get out. And I think people just don't try. I mean, it's kind of like one of those things. It's like I'm big into patches, and I have one patch that says no one is coming. And to me, that's almost a motto or a life creed to live by.
Yeah.
Nobody's coming. So now what do you do? You know, I mean, people talk about anxiety. It's like, then go off in the corner and have out whatever you need to have out, but you need to come back and finish the job. I had one job where there was no way that I could do it. But then I got to thinking, and this was like at 8 o'clock at night, and I was running cables up in the drop ceiling. And I was just like, well, no one else is going to do it. So I have to get it done.
Yeah.
One way or another, it's got to be done. And, man, those are life lessons. But when it comes to like off-roading, we've been doing it our entire lives, man. I mean, you know, people are like, how are you going to drive that thing down this little narrow road? I'm like, dude, I've been the steerer in a broken down car driving down the interstate.
Yeah.
And, you know, back in the early 80s, it was acceptable to do it.
Yeah, you get pulled over pretty fast now.
Dude, I slept in the back window. That was my spot on road trips. My brother went to the Shriners Hospital, and we made many multiple trips to Shreveport, Louisiana. And I'm telling you, man, before we could even get out of the county, I was already in that back window, just snoozing, just laid out in the back window. And you know, everyone did that. I mean, nobody was buckled up. I mean,
dang, dude, that's wild. That's a whole different level. I can tell you, I've never seen someone back there. So putting the mental image, like I've seen like a cat back there before, but like seeing it, I'm just like, dang, dude, that is a whole different step.
I saw it the other day, and it was, I guess I should not say illegal alien, but it was someone who clearly was not raised in the United States. Yeah. They were in the back window, and I had to laugh because law enforcement's not going to pull them over, because if they pull them over, odds are they might not be documented.
Yeah.
And so, you know, but I did see somebody in the back window.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to ask you this. We're now at this point in the off-road world where racing looks different. Trail riding looks a little different. And I want to ask you, do you still have your off-road crawler machine?
I don't know. I got rid of it because I kind of foresaw getting rid of my house, because I did briefly have a house for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I never moved out of my RV. A lot of people who came to visit me at the house kind of thought that'd be weird, but I kind of considered it a detached bedroom.
Sure.
That was my RV. And because I was taking off in it at least twice a month, but a lot of times every weekend I was going somewhere. Just because you know yourself and everybody who's listening, man, there's a lot of events. There's a lot of events. I mean, sometimes we got events stacked on top of each other on the weekend. So, I guess to your question, what was it? What was the question?
Do you have your crawler still?
Oh, no, I don't. So I sold that to a buddy. And you know, my crawler was it was originally a Land Cruiser. We took the body off of it, and I have Frankensteined quite a few Land Cruisers. All you gotta do is just go to my Facebook and see them. Patrick Murrah did me some amazing tube work and made it look like an awesome rock bouncer. And I tried to follow the rock bouncers, but I like to break. They were Land Cruiser axles, so they were 9.5-inch diffs. So they were large diffs. You know, they were the equivalent to a Dana 60. But we all know Dana 60s break. But considering they were Toyota, and I made what I called it a wonton, WONTON, like Japanese wontons.
Yeah.
But on the play of wontons. And I once had Ricky. I questioned the size of an FJ80 RCV versus a Dana 60 RCV. And so he did put them together and screenshotted it, and he posted it somewhere, but also sent it to me because I'd always felt like they were the same size.
Mm-hmm.
The bells are the exact same size. So, but the shafts are clearly the Dana 60s are way bigger than the FJ80. shaft. Because I'm not talking about the mini truck RCVs. For all the listeners, I'm talking about the FJ80 RCVs. The bells are the same size because those are bigger knuckles than the mini truck axles. And I've always wheeled the FJ80 Land Cruisers. And back in the day of the hardline rides, where we used to have actual hardline events, even before I had a buggy. I mean, if you were to ever go look back at them pictures, you'd be like buggy, red FJ80 Land Cruiser, buggy, and I was on 35s, man. I wasn't even on big tires. It's just that I wasn't afraid to gas it. Yeah, because I always know, man. I'm like, I don't mind breaking it because I know that Craigslist will keep making it. It's like I will break this part because I can go on eBay or I can go on Craigslist. And I mean, I'm gonna keep destroying Land Cruisers as long as the internet keeps making them. Break them. Yeah, they out there. I mean, they out there. So, I mean, I'm big in the Land Cruiser community. I love it. I go to a lot of Land Cruiser events throughout the whole U.S., primarily in the Southeast, Texas, Arkansas, Tennessee. So, and we go to the same places, man. I mean, we used to have an event at Grey Rock just like all the other events. And, the only difference was there'd only be like 30 trucks there as opposed to 300 trucks. Yeah. So we had the run of the park. And people are like, man, I'm like, hey, I've winched up Cable Hill in my Land Cruiser. Yeah. And I've gotten halfway up it, and then you get to the big ledge, and then you got to winch it somehow. And yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's pictures of me just doing stupid. I mean, Cole's got pictures of me at Cable Hill just raw dogging it, trying to get up. I mean, he's jumped in with me before filming, and he thinks it's nice to actually have AC or heater or whatever you need because you're in a Land Cruiser, man. You're in a boxed-in truck, and it will literally go anywhere you need it to go. Yeah. Matt's gone with me, and I don't know. I mean, just Ricky's gone with me. Everybody's gone with me. I think Ricky was in front of me once trying to go down a hill, and I got stuck in the ruts because on my 35s, I got high-centered like a turtle. Yeah. We got a picture of Ricky in his freaking Razor trying to pull me out while everyone else is around laughing because I was just – so then I had to, I had to get out and, whip out my tongue and give a good tongue lashing to everybody who was looking at us laughing with Ricky trying to pull a 5,500-pound truck off of, teetering. It was great, man. And those are the good times that no one forgets. You're just out there. I can't even remember when that was, man. That was a long time ago. Talking about razors, I think that was Ricky's first razor. Ricky's first razor, if anybody didn't know, it was a Razor 170 is what Ricky used to. Yeah. No, that's a joke. No,
I was like, what? I was like, maybe I missed something, man. No, he's talking.
That would have been cool, though, to actually see, like, maybe me riding with Ricky in a 170. I've always threatened to get a 170.
You ought to.
I've never had a Razor.
So let me ask you this. What do you think about Razors being introduced to the off-road community since you've been in it so long?
Yeah, so that I'm a worldly man, and I get why people do things, and I know there is one reason why it is a Polaris first. Polaris was like Toyota. People be like, Toyota was the best. It was like, no, Toyota opened up a way for people to finance their vehicles. And then Ford Credit quickly followed. But Toyota was the first company to say, come finance with us. Well, so Polaris did that 10 years ago. And when Polaris opened up financing, now everybody can go get one because all your FICO credit score has got to be 600. You can go get a Razor. Yeah. And it's like, oh, you got a 500 credit score? Well, that's fine. You'll just have a 20% interest rate. And people still did it. Yeah. Because they're like, 20 ain't nothing but a number. So they'll do it.
That's right. 20 ain't nothing but a number.
20 ain't nothing but a number, but it's also their interest rate.
Yeah.
And it baffles me that somebody's going to pay that.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know if that's the right number for me.
I'm telling you. But, people want to know why their Razors took off the way they did. That's why. I mean, the Polaris plant in Huntsville, some of the welding that that comes out of that. Some of the re-weld jobs. Have you seen some of those pictures?
I try not to look because I
They're
still
bad.
buy their machines. So
They look like I did it, and I don't weld.
Yeah.
Bubble gum is what it is.
Yeah.
Welds, but no. I don't know if they're a sponsor of yours, but
No, they're not.
okay,
And
maybe they should check their rework stations.
yeah, they should. Some of the stuff that I've seen come out of there within the past 2 years, especially, I'm just like, woo, buddy. You really got to look at these machines when you go buy them new. I'm not buying. I always tell people I don't like buying new machines. Let somebody, do the damage for you. Find one that someone did no damage to.
Yeah.
Let them get headaches out of the way, and then let it ride.
Well, yeah, but if you do that, now you have to go to your credit union because your bank ain't going to do it. Maybe your credit union is, but Polaris ain't going to finance a used razor.
Yeah, that's very true too. So I also operate, and again, this is no judgment or whatever. This is just how I like to run everything. I will not buy something unless I have cash for it. So
wow,
yeah.
I see. I wish I had that. I'm old, man. I'm in my mid 40s, and I know this baby face. I know that we don't have my filter, but I'm an old guy.
Yeah.
I wish I've learned. I've had a large, quite a large amount of financial realizations throughout my years. I mean, I'm stable. I think I always have been, but yeah, I've gone through some ups and downs, and
and I'll speak more to it because nobody learns that lesson. Nobody comes out of the gate and says, you know what, I'm going to be fiscally responsible. Everybody has a learning lesson. They have a learning point. And, mine was, I don't remember the year. And if my parents are ever hear this, I love you guys to death. No one cares about listening to this story. But, it was Christmas morning and my mom handed me $100 bill and my dad handed me $100 bill. And they were just like, Merry Christmas. Oh, this is great. I think I was 17. And they said, yeah, we are broke. And I was like, oh, I don't understand. Like at the time, again, just take it all with a grain of salt, people. At the time we were living in like a 5,600 square foot house, like something crazy. Okay. And, they're like, we're broke. And I was like, I don't understand. They're like basically explained that we had $150,000 of debt that we had accrued from moving from our old house to our new house. The market was garbage. So we got the big house at a really cheap price, but we couldn't get rid of the other house. So I think we ended up owning two houses for almost a year and a half, and they took a huge bath on the other house. And it was a really bad situation. And what I did was I saw how bad it hurt my parents. I saw how bad it made my dad feel. And my mom was surprised by the entire thing. And she basically had no knowing of it, just like we did. And I got to go through it with my family and I went through with my mom, and we went through finances, and she explained how it happened. And I was like, well, is there anything I can do to help? Because I saw how it hurt our family. I got a job and all this stuff and tried helping. And, basically she said, take care of yourself kind of thing. We'll do what we do normally, but just, take care of your things. And, it was one of those things where I saw that and I told myself, I don't want to ever have a surprise like that. And B, you can accidentally, with the best of intentions, walk yourself into a bad situation. And it's just one of those, it's a life lesson. Everybody learns it at some point. I just got really lucky and learned it when I was 17 rather than, later in life.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I've learned all kinds of life lessons that way. I mean, and I have people in my family who are still the same way as they were then, but I'm like I mentioned earlier, man, there were weeks on end where the power was shut off. Sure. We had times where the water was shut off. I mean, way back in the day when people had landlines, we never had a landline because it was shut off. Mm-hmm. We just didn't have the money for it. And so, no one ever teaches personal finance in high school. And I really wish that they would, because I think everyone would benefit from it. But at the same time, there's bankruptcy laws, and the reason why it is so hard to file bankruptcy is because of all the credit agencies that are lobbying and the world's biggest lobbyists.
Yeah.
So they're lobbying our education system to not teach you how to use it.
Great.
And you went to college. I mean, at least when I was in college in the early 90s, they would beat you down the door to get you signed up for a Discover or a Visa or a MasterCard. They wanted you to have all these cards.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't have an income. And they're like, oh, well, how much do you pay in student loan? Or how much is your tuition this quarter? And I was like, well, I think it's $5,000. I'm like, well, there's your income right there. I'm like, that's
not how that works.
that's not how it works, but that's how they would have me fill out the application. So the next month, a week later, a Discover card shows up in my mail with a $5,000 limit.
Wow.
So, it's teach kids, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. I got lucky too. So personal finance is required in Tennessee schools. You have to take that class in high school.
Ooh.
Now I got very lucky that my teacher actually chose to teach it in a way that was beneficial. She was in her late 60s, had become like debt free when she was in her 50s, lived the life, told her stories, the whole 9 yards. And she actually walked us through some of Dave Ramsey's financial peace stuff.
Yeah.
And let me put an asterisk here. I didn't pay cash for my house. I'm not like a billionaire or anything like that. There's situations when debt makes sense, but again, no judgment, guys. But a razor is not necessarily the thing that you should walk into $20,000 of debt for by any means. But that being said, I had a couple of good teachers. The one takeaway I took from that personal finance class was have a safety net. If you can cover 3 months of expenses in your savings account, awesome. And then two, don't miss a payment. Don't miss a payment. That's it. And I've never missed a payment on anything because I use auto draft, and because I have a 3-month buffer, I can use auto draft with no worries, all that kind of stuff. And
you do need that. You hit the nail. I mean, you said it right there. You have a buffer. So, if you're like me, where I live foot to mouth, I don't really have the buffer like what you're saying. I don't have any dependents, man. Yeah. I don't have any beneficiaries. In fact, I mean, I've got my sister who's set up as my beneficiary, but and the fact that, man, my medical debt, I still owe hospitals.
Yeah.
And I know a few years ago, someone called me out, or at least they thought they were calling me out. They were like, man, we did this GoFundMe for you, and you must be Buddy Rich. And I'm like, you don't realize that GoFundMe went straight to a hospital bill, and I still have twice that amount still looming over my head. So a few years ago, one of the stupid things I did was I actually put one of my medical bills on a credit card like an idiot. So I still have that. I carry a balance on that credit card. But but I admire people like you. So old people can use you as an example.
It's I'll tell you this. I found out the other day kind of how it feels to learn about different starting positions in life. And one of my absolute closest friends, I found out I think he's like 27, and I found out the other day, I'm pretty sure he's got $1 million in the bank. Okay?
Wow.
Straight up. Now, what it did was instantly I felt bad about myself because
that will never be me.
It will never be me. Let me say that.
In a minute. Go ahead.
And what it did was it made me feel bad. And it was one of those things where I was envious for probably a couple of days where I was like, man, that sucks. And I started to think about, I'm like, there's this platform that he had, his family, owns this company, blah, 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 blah. And I started making this, not like resentment or anything, but I caught myself and I was like, this is the argument that people make when they say, not everyone starts, I don't want to use the term privilege because that triggers people on the right, you say privilege and all of a sudden people are like, what? And that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we all don't start in the same place. And again, I'm not a communist or socialist by any means, but it really put in perspective, I feel like I had an excellent starting platform. I paid for my college, but my parents got me right to that door, with as best they could and everything I needed. I had a job, worked, all that kind of stuff. I was very, all those things. But
Yeah.
when you look to the right and you're like, holy shit,
Right.
that's
No.
a totally different ball game there. You have to realize that everyone does start. And it's one thing, like, people who are arrogant do not have a place at my table.
No.
I'll tell you that. And because nothing makes me not want to be around you more. Like, if I meet someone, I've met people on the trail before, and the arrogance just is like spewing out of them. And I'm like, wow, I can't wait until this conversation is over and I don't have to speak with you ever again, because it's gross. It's so
And,
nasty.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't care for those type of people. I mean, I actually, my senior year in high school, I paid my mother's rent. So
Yeah.
to say that I ever had any money would just be far from it. I mean, I didn't even own my first car until my third year in college. My first 2 years, I rode a bicycle because, I mean, that's what I do for fun anyway, is ride bicycles. But I didn't have a car. I mean, I rode a bike, and I borrowed other people's cars when I needed, a date or whatever. But that was strategery, was to just date a girl with a car. That's what I did. Or I had a meal ticket to eat on campus. I couldn't go out to eat. And as far as like having a bunch of money in the bank, I never will, because I have a giver's mentality and just a giver's personality. I mean, I just gave a lot this past Christmas to a family, probably more than I've ever given. I mean, thousands of dollars. But there were 5 people and 4 kids that had never seen the type of presents that I was able to give them.
Yeah.
I grew up 18 years with some of the worst Christmases. I mean, I grew up in a big family, so I enjoyed Christmases and holiday seasons, but man, we didn't get anything. I mean, there was one specific Christmas where we got zero, nothing. Yeah. And so, I mean, I grew up appreciating things, but not appreciating objects. And I mean, I think that's where relationships mean more to me than objects, especially material objects. Material goods literally mean nothing to me. So I don't have to have money in the bank or $1 million home or even a $300,000 home. I don't have to have any of that.
Yeah.
I feel like people need it, because you need shelter. And I think people should spend money on what they feel like they should.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to have it. I think I posted on Facebook the other day about winning the lottery, and I really want to, because, I want to get a new motor house.
Yeah.
I want to build a couple of sheds, but, I want to build a couple of RV parks throughout the United States so that I can live in them myself, but also to benefit other people to stay in them as well.
Yeah.
And I want everyone to have anything that they want. And if you want something, I want you to have it.
Yeah. And I feel like I need to kind of say this to kind of wrap around the story here. When my family was in that house, we spent about 10 years in that house. And that's the house where I cut my teeth and became a man, really.
Right.
But, my parents' goal, and I'm not a monetary objective person. They aren't either. But like my dad and my mom, their one goal was like they wanted to ball out on a house, and that's what they did. We didn't do anything. We didn't have like super nice cars or anything like that. We were very normal, and my parents chose to really ball out on this house. Came to bite them in the ass at the very end. But it's one of those things. They don't live there anymore. It's kind of one of those things where it was this one moment in time where they got to see this dream. And I know the main reason they sold the house was just because it was too much and all this and that. It's just too much to handle, maintenance, all that stuff. But long story short, I, in this very book today, I also wrote in here, what is my next thing that I want to do? What am I working for, and what am I working towards? And when I had that discussion, or when I had that realization about a friend of mine, I had like a gut check, and I was like, is that what I want? Like, am I upset because I'm coveting that because I want that? And it's not it. No. When you see that kind of thing, or when you see the Powerball, like I look at the Powerball and I laugh, because I think in Tennessee it's 430 million right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, that's like, I would love to win, because that is a hysterical amount of money that would change literally you could do so many different things.
Yep.
But it's not necessarily about being, a 400 millionaire or whatever, or being a millionaire. It opens the gate for other things. But I thought about it, is my next thing, do I want to work so hard that I move into this different position where money comes in at a different rate? And that's not it. That's not what I want to do. There's no draw for that. I've seen the other side of that coin. And, my dad still and has forever, wakes up at 3:30 in the morning, goes to bed at 10:30 or gets off work at 10:30 and does it every single day. He's going to work himself to death, but I don't know. And that's kind of something I'm at now in the pursuit of a mentor. I'm also looking, what's the next thing for me? And I think that for the meantime, it'll be, little baby Jesse needs all my attention and love. But
I've gone down the mentor path before.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I can't remember, I've read at least 3 dozen self-help books.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that stuck out to me on one of them was, it's okay for people to not know that you're viewing them as a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
It's good for them to know. That way they can kind of be cognizant of what you're doing and what they're doing in front of you.
Yeah.
But it's okay if there is someone in your life who you kind of want to model yourself after or model certain characteristics. It's okay to not let them know that you're mentoring them. Just use them, because whether you know it or not, anyway, you're using people as mentors right now. You may not label them as a mentor, but you're doing it.
Yeah.
And it's like your friend with $1 million. You may be using him as an example of what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
But you're using it in a positive manner, whereas it's not what to do. And I mean, the way I look at my childhood was, I was surrounded by people on what not to do in life. And then I was around people that did have things where, okay, this is what you do.
Yeah.
And this is how you treat people. So you take little bits and pieces from everybody to kind of form yourself. But, man, you can have mentors and them not know it. Absolutely. I mean, I had one guy who we all know, and I'm not going to mention him. He's since, at least he's passed. Man, I used him as a mentor, like just nonstop. And I still do. I still reflect on a lot of the things that he did and said. And just the way he treated people, because this world is built on nothing but relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. The older I get, the more I think about being present and how you interact with somebody, even if it's if it's the lady you're talking to at McDonald's who took your credit card and swipes it and she says, hey, here's your thing. And you give her a card. Hey, how are you?
That's right.
It's so funny. I actually take my dogs with me anytime I go anywhere, really. So I've always got a golden retriever's hanging his head out the side of it. And it's always the best starting piece. It's like, hey, I love your dog. I'm like, hey, thanks so much. Like, are you having a good day? How's your day going? And it's little things like that. Like I had, there have been times when you talk to somebody and they'll like just unload on you, like in the McDonald's drive-thru, and you're like, oh, I'm sorry you're having a bad day, or I'm sorry this and that. And, sometimes I've been that person that's like unloaded on people before, and just saying it to somebody else is the fix. And I don't know. I just think about it all the time. Like, you never know what just the smallest smile or kind word can do to somebody.
One of the things that I've actually done in recently, but was in a self-help book, it was just like, consciously smile while you're walking down the street. Just smile and just see what type of reaction you get from people, as opposed to just, you scowling. The other thing that I saw was like, as you're driving home and you're stopped at a traffic light and you're surrounded by other vehicles, because if you're in a big city, you'll have people on the right and the left of you. Look over at them and look at the scowl on their face from either they're going to work or coming from work, and they're just like,
yeah.
They're just sitting there, and it's not, the sun's not even out. They're not squinting because of the sun, but they're sitting there just with a shit-eating look on their face, and they're just, resting bee-faced.
Yeah.
And so if you sit there, people actually will think you're crazy, but you're just, you're like, and they're like, look at this idiot. Like, is something wrong with him?
Yeah.
Yeah. it's all about being conscious. And I think you're hitting it on the head. Be present.
Yeah, that's a fact. But I tell you what, we diverted back from all the off-road stuff, and I
Well,
hope.
no, that's who I am, man.
Yeah.
You had Eric Hagan on your on. This is what I do.
Yeah.
If you've ever sat with me on the side of a hill, this is what we talk about. That's why Brian Ford, we probably have the best time. I remember there was a race at AOP where it was me and Brian Ford, and probably, it started out with probably 3 or 4 other people, but by the end of the day, there were more people congregated around us just having a party and not even watching the race. Like I can't remember what was going on, but we were doing something, and next thing you know, they were like, "Hey, can we they're over there on this hill. Y'all need to actually turn around and watch them."
Yeah.
Because we had stopped watching the race and was just enjoying each other's company, because that's what we do.
Yeah. Well, that's it, man.
That's life, man. That's the beauty of this. And man, no one comes to see me about my off-road prowess because I ain't got it.
I want to ask you, because we're barking on 2 hours here. I want to ask you a few things before we start winding it down. What do you think about off-roading right now? What do you think about racing? What do you think about the whole scene? It's developed into high technology, high performance, a little bit different than it used to be. You got sticky tires, crazy suspension. What do you think about everything?
I think we're at a turning point where, we may, if it gets missed, oh well. But people was like, I think it could get on TV. I think as far as TV goes, I think TV's on its way out anyway. Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of people who had been approached from producers that were going to do things, but for the most part, almost all that has fizzled out, because if you're not watching primetime TV, like no one is. Mm-hmm. You're not watching primetime TV. The answer to that question is, well, I'm not. Well, that's because no one is. Mm-hmm. And everyone's watching Hulu, and everyone's watching Amazon Prime. Everyone's watching everything on the internet. So could we do something on that? Yeah, maybe. But as far as like a Duck Dynasty kind of thing, that ship sailed, last decade. I don't think it's out there anymore. I mean, I think the next greatest frontier is the one that we're already in, man. YouTube and Facebook and what you're doing right now. I mean, I know the first year that you were doing this, there was no face. It was all audio. And now you've got video. So people can at least watch this. They can listen to it on podcast while driving down the road. But if they're sitting there now, because everyone, not everybody, but they're sitting there in front of a computer screen, they've got it on one monitor while they're acting like they're working on the other.
Hey, I understand, man. I understand.
Like my work right here,
Yeah. You're on one of my screens, so the other one is not work because it is after work hours. But yeah, man. Oh, that's the truth, man. We're always plugged in. Yeah, you got it.
I have like 3 monitors for my laptop. So and I dock my laptop, and I've got like, I'm looking at spreadsheets and everything else, and helping. We don't even use our phone anymore. But so to that point, I think the future of off-roading is going into tech, man. People want to see. I've watched enough of your episodes, and I know a lot of people complain. They're like, I want to get down to the back of the hills. I want those hills in the back of the park. And I'm going, okay, well, that's probably where it's eventually going to go to, because they don't. If we can film back there, we can get the live feeds to you in the back. Yeah. So we don't really have to have the crowds. And I've been to all the events. I've been to, and all the promoters. And I'm saying, and some of those events are dismal. Some of them don't even have. I mean, I was at one where it had 200 spectators, and I'm like, how do you even keep this going? Yeah. Especially if that event's not filming and not putting it on live, or if they don't have any of the media there to film it and put it online. Yeah. How can you even sustain that? You can't sustain that.
Yeah, that's a big thing that I think is going to have to. It's a requirement from this point on. Like, we'll just call a spade here. Ultra 4 right now, I think, is leading the charge on how to do things. Not I want to say professionally, because it's not like everyone else isn't doing it professionally, but they seem to have the production side figured out. You
Yeah.
know, I don't see Ultra 4. You know, I see like their 30-minute specials on CBS Sports and things like that. But King of the Hammers is 110% on YouTube and Facebook.
Yep.
And it is the biggest race. It's a huge pool, yada, 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 all these different things. But they seem to be kind of paving the way. And, with the addition of Ford, with the addition of Progressive as sponsors, I mean, we're just going to see the Hammer King infrastructure kind of be, moved on.
Yeah.
I think that rock bouncing, you're exactly right. I really think it'll become maybe like an NFL game where you're watching it through a stream and you have commentators like we do now, and it'll become this non the infrastructure of the production is very important, but the producer side of it, the network side of it it's not a thing anymore. So I like what you're saying, because I think you're right. I don't necessarily think that ESPN might be the best goal anymore. I think the goal is beef up the infrastructure you have into getting it out to where everyone can sit on their phone and watch it in traffic.
Yeah. Hey, you've got Red Bull TV, but it's in it's in Apple. You've got it's subscribed. It's not on a channel. It's not on the Discovery Channel or ESPN. It's just available for you to watch online and to stream it. And as far as like these bigger Ultra 4, Ultra 4 is not really a series anymore. It's more of a product. Ultra 4 is literally a marketable product that you can say, okay, this is a package.
Yeah.
And so
I think what's really weird about Ultra 4 is how specialized King of the Hammers is. You know, I think we're starting to see that kind of evolve for us with like Visions. I think Visions will kind of is like going to be a miniature version for a while until it kind of gets its own culture to it. But it's so strange to me why King of the Hammers like you have Ultra 4 and you have the King of the Hammers race. Like they're separate, but they're not.
It's marketing, and you've got the title. It's the world's largest one-day race.
Yeah, and
that's kind of huge because, I mean, I haven't studied it, but who doesn't know that? Who doesn't know it's the world's largest one-day race? Because that's a statement. That's an entire sentence where I didn't memorize it. I just know it but that's because that's what it is, and it's marketing. And when you've got things like that, you become a product. You're not just a small event entity at this point. Now, I mean, everybody knows it. So now you can go and sell that product, and you don't even have to go. Ultra 4 doesn't even have to go and sell it. You've got other people out there selling it here on the East Coast, selling it to other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Messaging me and going, you're going to King of the Hammers this year. I'm like, well, first of all, I've never been to King of the Hammers. I've never lost anything in California. I may die never having gone. I may be the only person in off-roading that even kind of close to wears a black shirt that doesn't care to ever. I don't ever care. People are constantly, what? I can't believe I don't care. There's nothing in it for me for endurance racing, man. I've never been an endurance racing fan.
Sure.
I've gone and watched some endurance racing over there at Morris Mountain, but that was it. That was because my buddies were doing it, and I could go out there and yell at them and shake my fist at them. Yeah. Which is funny to me. That's actually Cole Shirley was racing in an endurance race at Morris Mountain. I didn't even know who he was. But that's how long ago it was. Yeah. And of all people who I was standing there with Matt Myrick, and he goes, "Oh, that's Cole Shirley." I was like, "Who? Who is it?" He's like, "Mad Ram." I was like, "Who's Mad Ram?" And I didn't know who it was. This was, man, I'm telling you, this was a long, long time ago.
Yeah,
a long time ago. In fact, that's when Cole had just got his buggy after Fireball.
Yeah. Was that the Jeep buggy?
Yeah, it was. It was or Jim's Garage. Jim's Garage. Yeah, it was brand new.
That's a cool thing, man. I love going back and watching that era where everybody just, I mean, it was like just hit, second neutral drop to second, just bang it and just relentlessly beating teams.
Hook dirt.
Yeah.
You gotta have that hook dirt at the top of it. That's that people talk about the Bible bang holla. Yeah. And what was funny was I didn't know that's like trying to draw 2 and 2 together. I had seen Fireball. I had seen Cole. I just didn't know who he was. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what it was. I mean, I remember talking about Fireball, and they're like, he didn't have it anymore. I was like, oh, wait, what? I was like, so that's the same guy. I mean, these were way back in the day times. I mean, but so at the same time, I'd already we were doing things in the other Toyota world, and at Gray Rock, at Morris Mountain, at Chocolaca. I mean, we were at Chocolaca, and Brian Cole come up with all the Cole Works crew, and we had our little buggies on 33s and 35s and the 37-inch stickies. And here comes Brian Cole in the highlighter buggy, and I think Timmy was with them, and I think a whole bunch of them. There was about a dozen buggies unloaded, and it would have been Chocolaco back in like 08, maybe 09. And here we are, and they're climbing up a Violator, and we're going up, another little hill. So it's our little group and their little group, but two totally different ends of the off-road spectrum, but we're doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And beating the crap out of it. It's kind of funny to be at a rock bouncing event and a little samurai buggy come scooting up between, where, big.
That'll hurt your feelings. Listen, that'll hurt your feelings real quick.
That's what I do. Like, I mean, I had 30-inch rollers on my truck one day, and I was just going the bypass trails, and I went up Los Primos. So there's a video of me going up Los Primos on 30-inch street tires, and everybody's like, you got to go this way, you're too small, those little tires. But I just kept going, riding right by the 43-inch sticky tires. Or actually,
I'm gonna go watch that. That's good.
Yeah, in it, Ben Bones in it. Just a bunch of local heroes were in it. Yeah. But that's what we do. I mean, that's what we did, was just rode with friends, and we still do it, man. The events, the races, people will cut out and start riding in the middle of the race, and they'll go out and trail ride. Yeah, trail riding ain't dead.
No. I think it's got a new life in it right now.
I don't know that it's ever gone anywhere, man, because I'm telling you, I've been on that. I know the other end of the spectrum. I'm friends with those people. I mean, when there's an event going on at Hawk Pride, or an event going on at, Blue Holler, well, there's people wheeling at Stony Lonesome. There's people wheeling over there in Arkansas.
Yeah.
People wheeling in Texas. I mean, they're wheeling everywhere.
Yeah. So I definitely don't think trail riding's dead. In fact, this weekend at AOP, I stayed and watched a race for about an hour and a half. Well, maybe a little less than that. Yeah. And then I rode for 5 hours that day. It was best. It was one of the best, man. I had a great time.
I love the events because I like to hang out, man. What we're talking about, just because when you're sitting there hanging out at an event, you're not. I mean, are you talking about trucks? Yeah, you talking about LSs, and you talking about all the other buggies. But at the same time, you're also talking about just stupid life stuff.
Yeah.
You're asking everybody how their kids are doing, and all this. I don't know, just random junk. And there ain't nobody's more random than me.
Yeah, I like it, man.
That's why they put us on the. That's why they put me on the mic. I know at Southern Rock Racing Finals, and when me and Joey got on the mic, God, that was probably the most fun I've ever had in my entire life. Trip was right there, kind of towards our ear. I mean, but me and Joey Beck were having a blast on the mic.
I'd like to see that pairing again.
Did you see it? I think you were chatting on.
Of course, I was chiming right in with y'all.
Well, what was funny was, his wife was literally beside us off camera, dying laughing at us. And Clyde was laughing at us. So we were feeding off all the energy around us, and with when you've got 1,500 horsepower blowing in the background, how can you not get excited? I mean, it was a blast. That's like I told him off camera. I was like, dude, I kind of wish I had like something to talk about. Like we were just ad-libbing the entire time.
Yeah.
We didn't have anything to talk. Like we didn't have any notes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was good times. Kyle,
well, if I see you at a Southern Rock race this year, hopefully I'll get a chance to see you on the mic.
You are going to see me, especially I think since you're going to be there. Yeah, you'll see me for sure.
Yeah. Yep. I definitely might be there. So we'll see how that turns out. Yeah. But hey, I tell you what, 2 hours.
It is on by. I'm looking out my windows and it's dark. So
yes.
I know that and I'm looking up at the news and night has fallen there too. So
is it crazy there?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I don't think anything's happened yet, but yeah, we're not going to talk about what's going on.
Right. How about this? How about we close it out here? Give everyone a good night kiss, and we'll see you guys next time. Eric Hagan, where can people find you on social media?
Is that the internets?
I heard the interweb.
Okay. Man, I think I'm already friends with them anyway. I mean,
that'll work.
The other day. So yeah, I think I'm Eric N. Hagan. N stands for Nancy is what my brother says. Everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, all of it. I'm going to probably be doing something soon, so be on the lookout for that. But aside from that, here I am.
Eric Hagan, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you always keep up with the podcast, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and we'll see you next time. See ya.